Check the Twitch page. Turn off the stream sound. Find the chat. Pop it out. Increase the font size. Wi-Fi again seems okay. Alright, I think we're up and running. Not quite sure. It's Monday here in Japan, which means Sunday in North America and stuff, so probably be not so many people today. Blank screen again. I don't know. I can't see what's going on here. The past week or so I've been doing this. I've been getting ready and sharpening and stuff before going online. So yesterday somebody asked about it, so just finish up the sharpening here. A bit late, but this is the last of 3 stones. I don't use 3 every time. There's a strong rough stone for when the knife is, chipped or broken. A medium stone for putting the bevel, putting the edge on it. And then this fine stone for the touch-up carving. And most of the time it's just the fine stone. Looks good. If I'm a good boy and do my work well, viewers would probably never see the rougher stone. Okay, where are we today? I'm going to start Mr. Octopus. Let's zoom in. Gotta focus somewhere around here, I think. Oops, too far. Is that in focus? Pull my light in. Is that positioned okay? I guess so. Let's see. Let's do this thing, starting the octopus itself. Oh, nice and sharp. This is now a different kind of line. Up to now it's been seaweed, it's been jagged, rough. Now this is different. This is smooth. The more sensuous part of this, smooth, clean curves. There's a hard streak in the wood here. When I wasn't so experienced, I'd hit this, stress would build up, and then bang, it would jump forward. Now we push through it and then come out to the soft part. Overall, this is really not a very good piece of wood, And if I'd have been still getting wood from, an actual supplier for printmaking, the last guy, Shimano-san, he died in, I think it was 1999. If I'd have been getting wood from him and this had showed up, I would have, gone back there and, like, what have you done here? What's going on? That never happened. I mean, he had good stuff. Now we just take what we can get, what we can find, what we can scrabble for. Okay, there's the curve. And here we go, suckers. How many? Didn't count them. Actually, here's where we'll see some knife breakage over the next few days, going around these curves. General rule with circular stuff is inside curves first, outside later. So chat's alive for us. See, we do have people. I wasn't sure. Sunday, what would be happening? Anybody or nobody? I forgot again. I was supposed to think about marking the channel adult content. I forgot. Not quite sure how to do that. I have to look it up. nice weekend. We have a shop here, you know. Yeah, it was okay. And actually, August for us is not a busy time. I know it's whatever. It's even a slump for us. It was 3 parties only yesterday. For us, the peak, of course, is the spring and autumn because that's the tourist seasons in Japan. And because our shop is hidden, we're up on the 2nd floor, and it's difficult to find if you don't know where it is. We don't get much drop-in stuff, so when casual tourists are walking up and down the street, they don't see us. So. It wasn't the weekend. I took a day off on Friday. I disappeared. It was no stream Friday. I went down to the beach for a day. First time in years, literally years. I'm all red now. Actually, the staff is like, "What have you done? Where did you go?" These circular shapes or oval shapes, whatever, I don't know. A really, really well-trained carver would be able to do this. You know, I've done the left side of each of these and switch around and do the right side, but I don't have that kind of flexibility. I didn't train that classically, so I'm going to flip the block around and do the other side the same way. It's the safest way. I get the best control. The curves will stay similar. Nothing wrong with doing it this way, but from their point of view in the old days, rotating the block was just a waste of time. So my result is okay, but I'm just not trained in the same way, so my method is a little bit different. As for today's work, this part, these suckers, is the easy part. Once these are done in a few minutes, then I have to switch over to the dots. And of course, in a woodblock system, the dots are going to be left, not taken away. So it's easy for them to draw. Just draw dot, 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 dot. A few seconds work. But for me, of course, the dots have to stay, and everything around them has to come off. So just sort of switch your brain off and for me, this is the second time doing this design, you know. People are thinking, what? Well, I've never carved it before. It's the first time for me, but I drew the design here. I mean, hooks, I drew it years ago, but I prepared the tracing for this carving, and to do that, I took a high-res scan of the image. A friend of mine Ueda-san has the book, so he lent it to me. I scanned it at whatever, 3,000 I think, I forget. And I brought it into my iPad Pro. Put a transparent layer on top. And I spent a couple of weeks, this was last year, tracing all the lines of the key block. There's no way I could just paste down on the wood here some kind of scan of the book itself, because you can't see where the lines are. That seaweed stuff has dark green, they cover up the black lines. It just couldn't be visible. So I had to spend the time figuring out where the lines were, and I traced it. So I've traced what you see me carving here is actually what I drew, what I traced on the pad. So I've already been over every one of these lines once already. Not like I remember them all. But I know what's going on. I've been here. Before I had the iPad Pro, with the pencil, you're just drawing right on the screen. It's fantastic. Before I had that, I used Photoshop on a desktop Mac with a Wacom tablet, on the desk in front of me. So you're looking up at the screen, or you're drawing on a tablet. Your hand and eye are totally separated. You can do it once you get used to it, but the iPad is much better. I'll never go back, And then, whatever, 20 years back, before I even had computers here, it was tracing on tracing paper. I get the original, go to a photocopy shop or something, or a place where they make blueprints for making buildings. And whatever book or image I was making, have it blown up about 400%. Some giant large sheet. And take that to my light table. I built a light table, it's still there in the workshop. And traced with brushes and mark pens or whatever was necessary for the kind of lines. Traced the whole thing at 400%. And took it back to that shop along with a sheet of the thin paper I need, and had them reduce it down to the size I needed for carving. And pasted that. So back in the old days, there's no copy machines, there's no iPad Pros, there's no nothing. They're just drawing on paper. They've got the skill. The artist drew it, on his assistants, whatever. They drew it at real size on super thin paper. And the carvers took it and pasted it on wood. Against the wood grain here. I should work around the grain here. This part's where I'm quite likely to pop the tip of this knife off somewhere here if I'm not careful. So that's exactly right. So they draw directly on the paper, so. And it wasn't like they couldn't make fixes and alterations and stuff. It was an interesting thing. When you're drawing on thin paper, are you doing X part of the design, Y part of the design, you keep drawing. If there's something you've done wrong, then what you do is you just take another piece of the thin paper, very, very lightly, just tack it on top of the part where you made a mistake. It's thin, you can trace right through it. Then you do your amended version, and you leave it stuck there on top of the sheet. Then when it comes time later to paste it down on the wood, you're doing it face down. So the new part, the amended version, gets glued to the wood. And the part that you didn't want, the incorrect part, doesn't catch the glue. There's some of these left. It's British Museum has some. The Victorian Albert Museum in London has some. Tracings that were prepared but didn't get used. Project cancelled, or we don't even know, whatever. It's interesting to look at them and to see. It gives you a real knowledge of how they worked, you know. This is dangerous too. I'm now working along the grain, so it wants to pop out to my left. So doesn't want to come out. Oh, hard spot there. That's a knife breaking place. Cut it out, it's okay. Still hard there too. This zone, I gotta be careful down in this corner here. Come out either. It's the hard part. Again, be careful. Hard meaning hardwood. Completely different right here. Okay, here's the insides. Magnification. I just don't know. I'm sorry. I don't know. I don't know the number. Oh, it's pretty big. I've got it on actually the not the largest I've got it on the smallest magnification. If I can zoom it up so that I can't even see my finger. I don't know a number. I'm sorry. I know. It's not actually all that big, you know. If I look to my side, look back and forth between my real finger and the finger in the scope here. Maybe my finger in the scope is double size, I guess, compared to what I see in real life. Maybe I can tell. Let's see. If I get a measure here, hold it up, put my finger in there. In real life, my finger is there, but if I hold the scale near the scope, near the window, what am I seeing? My finger's about 2 centimeters wide, it seems. So maybe, I don't know, something about double. We're not talking about magnifying by, 100 times or something. You couldn't do that. I just need to see the view of my knife blade and finger. It's more, to do with age, even with the glasses, just stuff's blurred, and if I move my head a little bit back, the glasses, I'm in a position where, to read a newspaper, I got to stretch my arms out, whatever it is that's called, I don't know. So mostly what this lens does is it makes it clear and clean. I've got my glasses off looking through the scope. As I said, it's at its weakest level of magnification. If I zoom it in, it's just too much. You can't see where your knife is going. So we're not talking about, brain surgery under a... These are going to need adjustments after I do the test printing. Just lost my mic. Sorry about that. Testing. Well, it's not written on the side of the scope. The model number is here. Where is it? It's Meiji EMZ, which I think is just a generic. Oh, I'm sorry, I don't know. I'm lost. Where was I? some moist wood out of the way. There's places here that'll need trimming later. Look inside that curve, I can still see some white inside there. It'll also show up once I'm doing test printing. Dave, we're losing view, it says. Let me go and check. Dropped frames 0. I think I'm okay. Hamscope, it's a Meiji, it's made in Japan here, and it's the series is the ENZ. That doesn't tell you the magnification because it depends on what lenses are stuck inside it. As I mentioned the other day, I have 2 of them already. This is a binocular, and I've got a trinocular with a camera attachment. And that one's way too strong. I can't use it because even at the smallest magnification, the field of view is too small. I mean, so I can't even see my finger, my whole finger, so it's useless. Whatever, I'll try and look it up later and make it available. Doesn't want to come out. Oh, this is the hard part. I forgot about that. There's a real hard chunk of wood down at this corner here. Way more dense than the other parts. Right here, you can see the dark shadows here. here and here. Really dangerous. Oh, chat. Jabe. Oh, John's here from Tennessee. Good morning. Dave do pre-orders. Ah, Soka, losing view. Ah, I see. I'm out of the scope. Ah, gomen. Where am I? Soka. Sorry about that. Let's... Just a minute. Sorry about that. Where am I supposed to be here? That's what you get when you turn this block too many times. I gradually move across the table, and sorry about that. Oh, look at this, John from Georgia. Good morning. John, I don't know what you've seen or what I mentioned on Facebook the other day. I guess you saw it. We got the first 200 batch of your prints back. Yamamoto-kun did them for me. He did a really nice job. They haven't been mailed yet. The ladies in Ome are still off on holidays. Their kids are still out of school, so I have real trouble getting those guys to get in. But they'll be posted very soon now. For people in the thread here who don't know, then just came online, John Amos, he's a friend of ours who was here working and studying and printing for a couple of weeks this summer. And he did the design for me for the gift prints, chibi prints we're putting out to the Patreon backers this year. Digging too deeply there, not so good, Dave. Am I still in view? Watch that from now on. Audio problems. Ay. Let's see, am I plugged in? Audio mic plugged in. Clip to my chest. Testing 1, 2, 3. Back to the broadcaster software. Testing 1, 2, 3. At this end it shows nothing changed. I need a tech here to handle these things. Again, cutting too deeply here is not necessary. It's hard to get some of the middle things out. There she goes. I don't know, the audio thing actually occurs to me. It might be what you're hearing is outside. There's a guy outside on the street jackhammering some concrete. That might be what you're hearing. I don't know. Stop now. Okay, back up the top. Am I still in view? I've got to keep checking. Sunday, Monday. It's Sunday morning, I guess, in some places, right? This is a good theme for Sunday morning, carving an octopus like that. There's the first pass. We gotta shave some of these, I think, on the inside curve. Because there's remnants of the paper still on here, it's really hard to tell where the shape is. So once it's all washed off and I've test printed, I'll be able to see where there's ugliness or where the curve isn't quite right. And fix them then. Let's clear out some of this waste now. This part now, clearing this waste. This is a key carver would never have done this by himself. He would have carved the lines on this other bit, clearing out the other stuff. It's for the kids, apprentices, whatever, lower level. And the one thing I'm curious about, I have no idea how to find the answer, is that would they have done this first or later? No. Better go the other way around, I think. Cutting the lines first and clearing the waste. There's a real danger you're going to bang those lines, either with the back of the chisel here as I scoop in, or with the side, you're nicking it. There's a real danger of this. But if you clear this first, you know, the lines aren't cut, so you're going to cut into the lines. So if I had sort of an ideal situation that I'd like, if there were other people working on the team here and they could just send me the ideal situation, the areas would be cut some millimeter or so outside of all these lines. Then the waste would be cleared by somebody else. Then it would come back to me, and I would just shave to do this carving. You know, I wouldn't be clearing any of this outside waste. I would just be shaving the last part of those lines. That's sort of maybe the skill that I bring to the job that the other guys in the workshop wouldn't have from the years of experience. You know, I can get the shape right. But it would be a bit of a waste of time for the head guy to be sitting here doing this, digging away all these little places, which could clearly be done by somebody with less experience. So. But for us, it's not about the time is money business. It's just about getting the job done. So. Okay, next up, dots. This is not going to be so interesting, I think, to watch, but whatever. First, just cut around the zone. Give me the zone where they are. Oops, is that a dot? I can't tell. Just a mark on the block. Some of those are pretty small. God. people's comments. Blah, 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 blah. Is all you have left the octopus and the woman? And the lettering, yeah, lettering be on a separate block. You got that, height, height. No idea about the non-Japanese cherry. I've never done it. So now in Canada, I tried some maple and stuff. It totally didn't work. It was too brittle. Starting out, yeah, it doesn't matter. For starting your first block, just whatever. Well, the maple thing didn't work at all, and it was hard. And the finished print printed, but the wood just didn't slice nicely. It was just, it chipped and popped and chipped and popped. It just didn't have. The cherry we've got is just smooth in consistency all the way through it. Oh, the maple I had, it was just a random piece of wood, so, you know, whatever, it could be better maybe, but it was just too, the summer grain, the dark and light was just too difficult. Cherry has a rather minimal difference between the summer wood and the winter wood. It's there, there's grain. But even like what I'm carving now, I can't see which is summer wood and which is winter wood. It's generally consistent. But yeah, for first experiments, it doesn't matter. Just try something. You know, you don't know what you want till you try it. So. As I said earlier, this particular piece of cherry would have been a reject. You know, even 15 years ago. And now it's, you get what you can get, you know. Let's take that side out. Really danger of chipping there. Pop that out first. This is that hard place, this corner. Really careful here, little by little. Look at that, this piece like a rock. Sayonara. With all this moving around again, I'm sorry, I'm probably going to miss the target zone here. Am I on camera? Yeah. I think later on when we're clearing really the wide areas, it'll be, you know, no scope. The camera will have to zoom back out because the block just moves around so much and the area I'm looking at is wider. Big chipping danger here, so cut it out again. Wood sounds, yeah. It is fun. We haven't heard much of that so far because it's just been the carving knife, but once I start working with these other chisels, is much more fun sounds. You know. Crunch, crunch, crunch. Whenever there's like TV crews and stuff here shooting, they always go for that. As soon as they hear that part of it, they get their mic up close. This. Okay. Back to the quiet stuff. Where's my field of view here? It's just a lot of hard corner. Carving these dots now, every time I start doing this kind of stuff, it always, that quote of his comes back. You know, I put it in one of the YouTube videos a while ago. I don't know the exact words right here as I'm thinking it. The guy was talking about when I was younger, the work I did was not so good. Now that I'm older, and he did this when he was like 75 or something. Now that I'm older, I'm getting better at this. And if I can live to be, you know, I don't remember the exact numbers. I think if I can live to be 110 or something, every line and every dot will be alive. You know, this was this kind of quote. You know. It's transliterated from the Japanese. But so here I am carving dots. You know, the lines, okay, I sort of get. You know, you need, you know, those lines I described. You need a good curve, something sexy. They got to join properly. You know, there's a good line and a bad line. But dots, you know. Hook's eyes watching me now. Come on, I want every one of those dots to be alive. And that's a very cool thing to say. But here on the ground, holding the knife, what does it mean, you know? And remember too, we talked about this before, I'm not reproducing hook-size brush strokes. You know, I'm reproducing what some carver carved of his brush strokes in 1834 that was then traced by me last year on an iPad and is now on the wood in front of me. So we're kind of X generations removed here. Which means it's up to me, you know, whatever Dave, carve nice shapes. Like anybody's going to see these dots? No, but they're going to see the cumulative effect of these things. No one's ever going to focus one by one on a dot. But they're going to see the effect. Again, this is first pass. I'm cutting what I think is a decent shape for each one. When test printing comes, look at it bit by bit, and you'll see then, or I'll see then, oops, that's a clumsy dot, or that's a funny shape, or whatever. And then, you know, make adjustments. And with hokusai, they're never clean and smooth. It's always angular. Angular and energetic. Spiky. Still in go. Yeah. The smaller ones are just angles, just chop, 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 left, right, up, top, bottom. But the larger ones, there's room for a bit of shape. That might be like this one's a curved face on that one. This one too. Might get a curved face. There's no way to do that on the small ones. They're just angled, chop, chop, chop. Yeah, I don't know too much to go on here. What have we got here? Hokusai didn't carve lines. Hokusai, of course, Hokusai is the guy who drew the concept here. He didn't touch wood, didn't touch paper. He sketched roughly first, then a bit more refined sketch. When it was all cleared by the publisher, that would be cleaned up and adjusted by people in the publishing house. And that would then go to the carver's bench, and away it goes. Hokusai never touched wood, never touched paper. I think in his younger days he trained on some of this, but I mean in his normal working life, no. And again, as we mentioned before, this was a real quick production. This wasn't a masterwork woodblock print. This was one book page from a small, little, unassuming porn book. Very, very cheap production. And everything we see about it shows how quickly it was made. The lettering was carved quickly. There's any number of carving mistakes in it. It was cheap junk. The kind of care and attention that nowadays we're paying to it, they would have just shaken their heads. What are you thinking about? Just blow it out the door. This is the part of this job that, people are experimenting with CNC machines and something. There's no way they could do this. These dots would just pop and fly all over the place. Even for me, it's difficult to see what I'm doing, because once you're carving a given dot, the paper pattern on the top of it pretty much peels off. So even looking back at what I've just done, it's hard to tell what's dots and what's dots and what's not. Any questions at this point? I just leave them at test printing time, when I can compare the test print with the sample. When they're closer together, it's easier because the release stroke for one can be the same stroke that cuts the next one. But here, when they're too far apart, I can't do that. So this is more dangerous, getting a clearing chisel in here. Push just a tiny bit too hard and bang. I keep forgetting to check, am I still in view, you know. Here too, they're a bit too widely spaced. It's just the clumsiest scaling. They better be cut one by one. Show about the salt. It's Yoshikami time again. The restaurant next door. We're flooded with the smell of their sauce preparation now. Came through about 10 minutes ago. It's no big deal in winter, we got the windows closed, but here in summer. There's two nuts side by side, so let me pop out between them. It's about these streams now, so there's stories that get told. So there's people reading the stream or listening to the stream and reading the chat who heard yesterday's story. There's other people who haven't heard yesterday's story or whenever it was. So it's going to be a real mix of who knows the reference and who doesn't know the reference, and do I tell the story again or not, or I don't know. It's going to be a bit chaotic, I think. So, or people in the chat there who heard the story yesterday who will tell the other ones, I don't know how it's all going to play out. Some stuff's important, some stuff's not important. That one about the restaurant is trivial, Is it a story I need to tell every day because there's somebody in the chat who didn't know? No idea. And then me too, I can remember at the moment that I talked about that yesterday, but run forward a couple of months and I'm not going to remember what I talked about then. Because this is going to get repetitive, as the years go by. Because that's my life here as a carver. It's the same thing again and again and again. It's not the same design. I'll be doing something different a few months from now. But this is life, What you see is what I do. And what I've been doing now since, my God, since when? I don't know. First prints 1979, somewhere around there, back in Canada. Experimented there for half a dozen years or so. Came to Japan twice on 3-month visits. That was in 1980 and in 1983. To try and gather info, get some tools. Both a bit successful. then I actually tried to set up as a printmaker back in Canada. I went to a couple of craft fairs, opened a booth. Look at this, I'm making prints. I'm a Japanese printmaker. You know, it was absolutely chaos. The stuff was no good. I realized very quickly that, you know, making the things was one thing, but trying to make a living and getting out to craft fairs and stuff and selling them. There was no internet. It wasn't what I wanted to do. It was just no thank you. So I retrenched a little bit, forgot about the selling and the business and whatever. Came to Japan in '86 just to learn more about how to do it, with no attempt to sell the things. We were here for other reasons too, to get my kids' Japanese nationality sorted out, to take care of my wife's parents, for me to learn a bit about the language in Japan. And it was a good approach. Forget selling, just learn how to get better at making them. And it worked pretty well. That was 1986. Come 1989, it seemed like I could make a go of it, putting them into the marketplace. And here I am. Actually, that reminds me, there's a very, very interesting conversation here with a young man from Scotland. He's been a collector of our work for years, and actually I didn't recognize him when he came in. Sad to admit. You know. He was here, I only met him once, that was here a few years ago. Anyway, he came in, he's working in America now. He's working in traditional Japanese music and dance and theater, sort of, in traditional Japanese arts in America, and he's Scottish. And he told me some stories that sort of, for me, they're horror stories. He's getting blowback against what he does there because he's white. And while he and I were talking, there was a young Japanese woman here. She was just visiting. Nobody, I didn't know her at all. Turns out she was a school teacher here in Japan. She's an elementary school teacher. And she's here. She was here in Asakusa for the day. She was in yukata, walking around in like a light summer kimono. Just came to Asakusa to enjoy the ambience and walking around, and came to our place because she's seen us on TV or whatever. So she's a, whatever, random Japanese lady, educated Japanese lady. And she heard his stories about how he's in trouble for this charge of appropriation, stealing something from that not your culture. And she's like, I don't get it. You want to explain that to me again? So we explained to her about this kind of a feeling that some people in some parts of the world have the idea that you shouldn't, I don't know, I'm not the best person to articulate this because it's not my view, but you shouldn't try to make a living or study or work with stuff that's not your native, your own native inherent culture. And he's like, yeah, so he has to wear a kilt and play bagpipes? That's all he's allowed to do because he's Scottish? And she says, yeah, well, of course not. You're very welcome to do Japanese stuff. And he says, well, go tell that to the Americans, because... And I get almost none of that here. Zero. Zero, 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 zero. The Japanese don't get that idea. They have no sense that this is their culture and I shouldn't be doing it because I'm white. It's the other way around, for God's sake. Japanese don't do it anymore. They've given it up. They threw it away. The Japanese, in general, love what I'm doing. And there will be some, I suppose, who don't, but they don't speak up. But I guess over in America it's a different story, and his stories are horror stories to me, so. So he's like, you know, Dave, whatever you do, stay where you are. Don't even think about going back to North America because you'd get picketed there, whatever. And I'm like, what? because it doesn't match with my own experience. You know, I get basically nothing but praise for what's going on here. You know. Okay, let me see here. Shut up for a minute, Dave, and get these dots sorted out. That's too big, I think. We'll see it at test printing. That looks too big as well. What's this? Is that a dot or is that a place I forgot to clear? I don't know. Let's get my... I've got a photocopy here. Where am I? It's below his eye. Tentacle going down. Trying to figure out where I am here. Okay, here we go. We're in this zone. No, there's no dot there. So that's junk. Out it comes. Like, does it matter? But anyway, let's try and do the right thing here. Okay. What's left here? Okay, in the middle of the no. This is also very, very dangerous part. Especially in this corner where that hard bit of wood is. Oh, I'm missing here. Yeah, my own basic thoughts on this appropriation thing. I grew up in Canada in the 50s and 60s, and actually there were, at that time, I didn't know anything about it at the time, but I read about it since then. There were at the time some really strong things going on about appropriation. I guess the Eskimos, or whatever they call them, the people that live up in the north end of the country, had a kind of printmaking. I don't know where it came from. Somebody showed them how to do it, or they invented it, or whatever. I think they're printing on stone. And I guess what happened was people started to buy these things, take it back to galleries down in the cities, and blah, 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 blah. And then I guess some Canadians, white Canadians, whatever, started to do similar imagery and stuff. So I see the point about complaining about that kind of thing. You've got sort of a weak, I don't mean weak in a disrespectful sense, but weak in the sense that they had no economic power or means to display their work. If you had stronger people taking advantage of a weaker people, kind of an arbitrage, then yeah, that could be art appropriation, you know. Oh, not already. Jeez, it's 9:30. God. You know, to get back to that thread, so an appropriation in that sense would be maybe it's indefensible. It would be not such a good idea. But then translate that to my world. The Japanese are not some weak group who I'm taking advantage of. Good morning, Sugi-san. We're live. Hello. Oh, yeah, they haven't seen you. Okay. Let me get back to my broadcaster software just a moment. This is Sugi-san. Have you been on here before? Hi, one of the printers upstairs. In fact, I talked about it yesterday. She and I today, we're going to do an interview. She's just finished a printing job for me. By the way, 多め送りましたよ。ほとんど OK になったよ。結構チリ多かったんですけど、でもしょうがない。ほとんど OK。多め送った。今日最後のちょっとだけのインタビューで、そうすると今夜編集して YouTube にアップします。OK? 何これ今の格好 OK ですか？ OK。ベーカリーの T-shirt してない。OK. Alright, thank you. OK. Sorry, speaking of Japanese or whatever. She's printing upstairs. She's just finished the job. I videoed it all along, and we scanned every step. So as part of the production video, we're going to show the scan steps one by one. And the last step is she and I are going to do a little mini interview, and then we'll wrap it up, and hopefully it'll be edited and up on YouTube tonight. Promises. And the doorbell's still ringing, so it must be who's coming today? Doi-san and Kawai-san. Audio static. I don't know what to do here. Just a minute. Should we test this? I can test this. We've got two microphones, the one I'm wearing and the mic on the camera, which is turned off. So as a test here, I'm going to turn off this microphone and turn on the camera microphone. How do I do that? Camera mic going on, my own mic going off. Testing, testing, 1, 2, 3. Audio level looks lower than it was before, which makes sense because the microphone is over there. Is there static? Is there problem? Testing, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Okay, let's change them back. Put my own mic back up. The camera mic back down. So now it's the mic on my chest. Good morning, Kawai-san. Hello. Maybe what we're getting, is it shirt noise? Anyway, it's back to where it was. Joe, I've got to continue carving these dots. It's 9:30. Give me a minute to finish off this thing. We'll handle technical stuff later. Oh, look at this. Comments. Suga-san, she's upstairs. She can't hear you. So it's my chest mic. It's electronic crackle. Well, let's try it. See, here's the USB interface. I'll unplug and plug. Cable looks okay. Cable looks okay. It's probably making noise. I'm touching. I'm sorry. Excuse me. Okay. Anyway, for now, that's all I can do. I will try and check this later with some other format. Yeah. Get back to work, like the guy says. .30. Like I only started 20 minutes ago. Come in from the other side. That thing about moving the block, the old guys never moved the block. That was for the line cutting part. When they're clearing, of course you have to go where the wood grain tells you to go. That'll be Doi-san, the other staff member who's going to work today. Oh, here's the hard corner. Be careful. Doi-san, good morning. We're live today, ne?
Yeah.
This camera's on, so you can say hello to the waiting multitudes. Did Chihiro-san explain the other day what's going on with the camera? Oh, it's okay, it's okay.
Yesterday, the Hitajima-san,
そう、
Hitajima-san visited
うん、
here.
そう、イサムさんですね。
Isamu-san.
そう。名刺届いたんですけど、
Okay,
いろいろあんまりお父さんの仕事の細かいことはあんまりわからないですね。そう。道具とか全然残ってない。弟子全部渡したんです。そう。そう。そう。関奥さんの工房で、なんていうの、まあ、師匠は関奥さんという。
関岡さんの前の関岡さんね。ナンバー2関岡さん。
ああ、そうかそうか。
現在の関岡さんじゃなくてね。
ゆうすけくんじゃない。もちろんゆうすけくんの父さんでしょ。その前の人。
一番多分。
ゆうすけくんのじいちゃん。
おじいちゃん。
そう。僕会ったことないですね。そう。まだ話してないセンシャフトとかもう残ってるかどうか。そこまで話せなかった。
送ってみて、あれです。 あれさ、あの人は戦車札とあと超友会出るのタクークラブね。
そう、昨日そのことも話しました。お父さんがもう体全体。
すごい。
そうです。亡くなるまで90何歳になっても客が来たと見ていいですか、はいと出したんですね。そのプライド、90歳のじいちゃんでもそのプライドだったんです。
息子さんここを知ったのはなんかインターネットかなんかで調べて。
いや、テレビ見たんです。
テレビも。
そう。2週間前の NHK 番組。総合テレビに出たんですね、2週間前。いろんな人が見たんでしょ。Okay, there we go. Let's zoom out just a little bit back. So this morning's job, very nice. One zone, all carefully cut. Mixture of dots and tentacles. Tentacle number 1 done. 7 to go. Okay, that's it for today. I'll try and sort out the microphone thing by testing it with something else later on. But for now, it's 9:30. I've got to get back to work in the shop. Good morning session. The schedule. Tonight, I wasn't on last night again to try and do a European time zone session. And tonight, too, it won't be. I'll be doing that video editing tonight. But all things going well, I'll be back here tomorrow again, 8 o'clock Japanese time. And if I can remember today, too, copy this chat so I can see it later, because it disappears. Thank you very much. Signing off.